Hi, I'm Don Dawson. When you work in a warehouse, the hazards sure can stack up quickly. In this program, we'll show you how you can cut them back down to size. Warehouses play a critical role in our economy. They are the hubs of the transportation, storage, and distribution of all types of materials and help keep business and industry going strong. As a result, they are very busy places, which can give rise to a lot of hazardous situations. Every year, thousands of warehouse workers are injured on the job, and there are more fatalities in warehouses than in most other workplaces as well. But it doesn't have to be that way. Warehouse safety depends on you understanding the work-related risks you're subject to and knowing how to avoid them. Let's face it, ignoring the risks in warehouse work will not make them go away. To protect yourself against accidents, you need to meet warehouse hazards head-on. You do that best by being safety-minded. A good way to start is dressing for safety every day with personal protective equipment, PPE. PPE is anything you can wear to prevent or minimize injury, such as leather gloves, a hard hat, safety glasses, steel-toed boots, ear protection, or a dust mask. But PPE can't protect you if it's sitting on the shelf, so be sure to put it on and check to make sure that it's in good condition. If it fails inspection, take it out of service. It's especially important to stay safety-minded when we're busy or in a hurry, because that's when we often take more risks. Remember to walk, don't run. Watch where you're going. Hand materials and tools to your coworkers. Don't throw them. You need to take safety seriously, so don't ever fool around in a warehouse either. Horseplay can get somebody seriously hurt. Good housekeeping might not seem like a priority in a warehouse, but clutter can be dangerous. Rubbish on the floor can cause slips, trips, and falls, interfere with safe operation of equipment, even create a fire hazard. Dispose of trash immediately in the proper containers. Clean up or report all liquid spills right away before they can cause a slip or a skid. And always report any loose flooring or other conditions that could cause trouble. But that's only part of good housekeeping. It also includes not creating unsafe situations. Don't park or load or leave pallets where people don't expect them, even temporarily. That's an accident just waiting to happen. Safety-mindedness is also very important when you're dealing with hazardous materials. Your employer will provide you with information and training on safe handling and storage of these substances in your hazard communication sessions. This will include what PPE you should use when you're handling a hazardous material, what to do in case of a hazmat spill, and what first aid treatment to give someone if they're exposed to a hazardous material. You can also find this information in a Materials Safety Data Sheet, SDS. Materials handling is what most warehouse work is all about. Let's break the subject down a little and focus on some basic principles that will help you do this safely. A lot of lifting and carrying gets done in a warehouse, and lots of workers suffer back pain and other injuries as a result. But this doesn't have to happen, especially if you think before you lift. Begin by asking, is the load too heavy to lift easily by myself? Is it too bulky for me to see where I'm going after I lift it? Is it too awkward or unbalanced for me to carry safely alone? If you have any doubts about the answers, don't make the lift alone. Ask a coworker to give you a hand. When you do decide to make a lift yourself, lift safely. Keep your back straight. Never bend at the waist. Get close to the object and lower yourself by bending your knees. Grip the item firmly, tight to your body. Then lift using your leg muscles. But lifting is only part of the job. Once you've picked something up, you have to get it to where it needs to go. Carrying a load safely means watching where you're going and stepping carefully, while still keeping your back straight. And don't twist your body when you need to make a turn. Change direction by moving your feet. When it's time to unload, do what you did when you lifted, but do it in reverse. You can make any materials handling task safer when you take time for a little preparation. First, look at the load and decide on the best way to move it. If it's on a pallet, use a pallet jack, a pallet truck, or get someone with a forklift to help you. For smaller items, a dolly or hand truck might be the best approach. And if it's just one reasonably lightweight item, you could lift and carry it yourself. Preparation also includes planning the route you'll follow to get your load to its destination. The goal is to get there quickly and safely. Scope it out for yourself. If you find obstacles along the way, remove them, or find an alternate route. Remember to make sure there's a place to put the load once you get where you're going. It's also important to make sure the equipment that you're using in your warehouse is working correctly. You should always inspect materials handling equipment before you use it. Check the mechanical condition and make sure it's rated to handle the required weight as well. Overloading can be very dangerous. How you load the equipment is important too. Loosely stacked or unbalanced loads can slip off and cause havoc. So load with stability in mind. To keep the center of gravity low, place heavier and larger items near the bottom. Place lighter and smaller ones near the top. And to prevent any unbalanced or awkwardly shaped items from getting out of control, make sure to secure them before moving out. Strapping or stretch wrap can be useful here. Moving, storing, and stacking materials would be a lot tougher without pallets. Ow! But they do have some hazards of their own. You need to know how to work safely with them. Pallets can often have sharp edges, splinters, or protruding nails, so always inspect them closely. PPE really comes in handy here. You should wear sturdy gloves whenever you're handling pallets. If you find a damaged pallet, scrap it. Its condition will only get worse over time and become more hazardous for everyone. Walking or standing on pallets is risky. They can easily shift as you move across them. And if your foot slips through a gap in the boards, you can end up with a twist, a sprain, or even a break. So stay off them whenever possible. If you have to walk or stand on a pallet, be very careful. Pallets can be heavier than they look, and they're awkward to lift. So if you can, get an assist from a coworker when handling them. Always stack empty pallets flat and never more than about 4 feet high. That way they're easier to handle, and the stack is less likely to tip over. Never stand pallets on their sides. In that position, they can easily fall over and damage something or somebody. Materials that have been stacked on a pallet, palletized, can be much more convenient to store. But remember, doing it safely means not creating any new hazards in the process. Begin by checking whether the materials require a special environment, such as a very dry, dark, or well-ventilated area. Find out if storing them with any other materials could create a dangerous condition. This is particularly important with chemicals and other hazmats. You can find information on safe storage on a materials safety data sheet, or check with your supervisor. How you stack materials is crucial to warehouse safety. With the quantities and weights that can be involved, They can be lethal if they collapse or tip over. You can help prevent this by stacking all materials on a flat base, placing the larger and heavier objects close to the floor and the lighter and smaller objects higher up, stacking containers straight and evenly. Don't stack items so high that they touch overhead lights or pipes. And remember, you must have at least 18 inches of clearance between stacked materials and sprinkler heads. Never store or stack materials in front of exits or safety equipment. Don't obstruct aisles, passageways, or evacuation routes. If you're breaking up materials that have already been palletized, you need to be careful as well. Strapping can be very tight and can spring out at you when you cut it. Watch out for materials that haven't been stacked well on the pallet, too. They could fall apart when strapping or stretch wrap is removed. Forklifts are the workhorses of warehouses, and no wonder. They're specifically designed to handle large quantities of materials quickly and efficiently. But they can also pose significant hazards to employees who may be working nearby. While it's true that forklift operators are supposed to yield to pedestrians, safety is still a two-way street. You need to work with the drivers to ensure that accidents don't occur. Forklift operators are trained professionals. They know their equipment and how to use it safely, and they know the rules of the road. But the noise of a forklift itself can often prevent drivers from hearing you, and sometimes the load that they're carrying can obscure their vision. So it's up to you to make sure the forklift operator knows you're there. That's why you should use designated pedestrian walkways whenever possible, and keep to the right when walking in aisles. You don't want to pop up where a driver doesn't expect you. Stop, look, and listen for forklifts, especially near blind corners and intersections. These can be trouble spots in a warehouse just like they are on city streets. While forklift operators should honk their horns at these locations, you can add an extra margin of safety by being alert and cautious as you approach these areas. If your workplace has installed convex mirrors to help you see around corners, use them. Forklifts can move strangely too. They steer with their rear wheels, so they can maneuver better in tight places. This means they can turn very sharply and that their back end swings out when they do. Don't let this catch you by surprise. The bottom line with forklifts is to stay safe, stay clear of them. Always stay away from their forks. Never get between a forklift and a wall. And never work, stand, or walk under a raised load. Finally, remember, forklifts are for moving materials, not people. No one but the operator should ever ride on a forklift. A loading dock is a very busy place. It's also where 1 in 4 warehouse accidents occur. Loading dock injuries tend to be serious, and they can be fatal. Something that can make a loading dock particularly hazardous is the weather. Rain, snow, and ice increase the risk of slips and falls on a dock, so in these types of conditions, you need to watch your footing. You always want to keep the dock surface as dry as possible. Not let snow or ice accumulate on the floor. While you can stay well clear of forklifts elsewhere in a warehouse, a crowded loading dock can require you to work at close quarters with them. So you need to be extra careful when they're around. Crowding can also force you closer to unguarded edges of the dock than you should be. This is especially risky when there's no truck backed in. It can be a long way down, which is also why jumping on or off a loading dock is a bad idea. Use the stairs or a ladder. Dock plates can make your job safer by bridging the gap between the loading dock and a truck or trailer, but they need to be used properly to be effective. A dock plate must be rated to support the total weight of the load you're handling.
which includes the weight of any equipment that's moving it. To be secure, dock plates must be positioned with at least 8 inches of overlap on both ends. Just the act of unloading a truck or trailer can have its own set of hazards. For instance, the load inside may have shifted during transit. That means materials could come tumbling out at you when you open the doors. So avoid possible falling objects by standing clear. Sometimes loading or unloading can cause a truck or trailer to gradually roll away from the loading dock. This is called trailer creep, and it can be deadly if people and equipment fall into the resulting gap. To prevent it from moving, any truck parked at the dock should have its engine turned off, its transmission in reverse, and its parking brake applied. But to be doubly safe, you should chock the wheels as well. And keep an eye on the chocks. Sometimes the activity in the truck can also loosen them. If your loading dock has mechanical trailer restraint devices that lock onto a truck's axle or frame, be sure to use them.
We've seen why working safely in a warehouse means you have to stay safety-minded, no matter how busy you are. Let's review.
Taking safety seriously begins with basics, like wearing the right PPE and keeping your work area clean and orderly. Think before you handle materials. Decide how to move them. Check out your route and lift and load with care. Treat pallets with respect. Know how to store and stack materials safely and securely. Work with forklift operators to prevent accidents. Stay clear of any powered equipment when it's moving. Watch your footing on a loading dock. Be careful of unguarded edges, forklifts at close quarters, and trailer creep.
The risks involved in warehouse work are real. But now that you understand them and know the steps you can take to avoid them, you can get your job done better and more safely every day.